What is going on, everybody? It is your observant lineman, Uche Nwaneri, here for the Tiermaker, Week 17 Tiermaker for the NFL. Playoff scenarios obviously becoming more of an issue, more of a overseeing shadow atop this week's NFL games. A lot of implications there for a lot of different teams. And we're going to go through all of the different scenarios, or we're going to look at the matchups for this week and then look forward to the scenarios for this week's NFL matchups. It's the season ender. A couple things we already know. We know who's going to have the first pick of the NFL draft coming this 2021 year, in the 2021 season. That's going to be the Jacksonville Jaguars. We saw that they clinched that with the Jets pulling another Houdini out of their hat and winning in their game against Cleveland. So now you have a scenario where the Jaguars have solidified that pick. And also, I believe the Falcons, the Jets at number 2 and the Falcons, I believe, are at number 3 right now as we're looking forward to the NFL 2021 NFL draft. But aside from all of that, let's take a look here at our current Tiermaker tier rankings here for from week 16. Got a lot of teams that moved up a little bit, teams that were sitting at the bottom bunker, as well as the Jets that moved up a little bit with their win a few weeks back, and some teams that fell down and some teams that may continue to fall as we take a look at the schedule. But let's go ahead. Let's take a look at this week's matchups. Obviously, first matchup here, Miami at Buffalo. This is going to be an interesting matchup. These are two teams. Miami has been a big surprise. Now, Buffalo obviously has the division sealed up, or can seal the division, I believe, with the win in this game. But Miami's in an interesting conundrum, if I do say so myself. They're really, I don't know what to make of the situation with Tua and Fitzception is what we're going to call, is what he's now been being called in the football world. Fitzception, pulled a Houdini, pulled a time warp that I'm sure nobody really expected. He had his helmet twisted halfway backwards, still got off a dime to his receiver, wide open on the sideline at a crucial point in the game, helped propel them to a win. And this is a game where Tua wasn't so effective, and Brian Flores made the call to bring in Fitzception when he felt like the game was kind of hanging in the balance. So I think it's kind of a quarterback by committee right now. As much as Tua is the future of the Dolphins, I think right now Brian Flores is playing it well. He's playing it straight. You want to make sure that you are giving your team the best opportunity to win. And whether that's with Tua or Fitzpatrick, it really depends on the scenario. And in that scenario, much like a few weeks before that against Denver, I believe, they did the same thing. They had a situation where Tua was, ineffective, and they decided to go ahead and make the switch. But they're going to be going into Buffalo. I think that this is obviously going to be a game that's going to come down to the wire. I don't think that anybody's expecting this to be one-sided necessarily, but I will say that I see Buffalo just having a little bit too much for the Dolphins. I don't doubt that there's a possibility that the Dolphins can win this game, but it's going to take some Fitz magic. It's going to take some Fitzception. I'm not so sure that it's, when you compare these teams head up, Buffalo does have the advantage. They have the top wide receiver in the NFL, and Stephon Diggs. Obviously, Josh Allen is playing at a near MVP level. They've got a good running game. Their defense is playing solid defense. I really think that Buffalo has the on the paper advantage. I think they've got great momentum, but I also do think that Miami has some good momentum themselves. So this one could actually turn out to be very interesting late in the fourth quarter. But I'm going to go with Buffalo on this one. Buffalo's going to have the win. I'm going to keep these two teams where they are in the Tiermaker. Don't think that there's much there in way that would lead me to move these guys around at all in regards to where they are in our rankings. Now let's go back here and let's take a look at the next matchup, Baltimore at Cincinnati. Cincinnati's been playing, they played some stout football. They beat Pittsburgh, which I'm sure nobody expected, but that was a rivalry game. This is going to be a little bit different of a scenario. You've got Baltimore coming into Cincinnati. I expect it to be a tough matchup for Baltimore in the first half, but they should get some distance late into that game. I'm going to keep Baltimore where they are. They're on a 4-game win streak now. They've been on a bit of a tear since the poo-poo incident with Lamar Jackson going and taking a huge shit, coming back out Paul Pierce style and making things happen. But honestly, I'm not. I just don't feel like. I just don't believe it. I don't believe it. I don't think that they're destined to move past the wild card round in the playoffs. Should they, solidify their position in there? I just don't see that they have all the pieces that you need to really be able to get wins. You're going to have great defense. You're going to have, great running game. You're going to have turnover-free football. And while they've been playing well, the teams that they're going to be facing in the playoffs, I feel like just have more dynamic weapons outside of what's expected with Baltimore, which you expect to see Lamar Jackson running up and down the field, but you don't so much expect him to just be throwing darts all over the place. So when I look at it from that perspective, I think they get the win in this game, obviously, but I keep them in good for a cameo. I think they're probably going to be a one and done in the playoffs. As for the Bengals, different story here. I think that the Bengals, obviously, nothing really to play for here. They're going to put up a fight. They're at home. You want to use that home energy to move forward. When you're playing against a division opponent. But really here, I'm going to keep them for how they've improved in their play over the past few weeks. I'm going to keep them and just trying to keep my job right now, because there's other teams that are going to get moved down into the basement dwellers category soon enough. So I'm going with Baltimore in that game. Cleveland is going to put up a fight, but it's going to be for naught. Next game up here, we got Pittsburgh at Cleveland. Now this one for me is going to be an interesting matchup. There's a lot dangling from the proverbial carrot that's dangling in front of the Cleveland Browns right now. Is not only have they solidified their first winning season since I think like 2006 or 2007, but now we're actually in a situation where they have lost a couple of games here, and now they're kind of in a tight spot. This is going to be a game that they have to win against the Steelers to keep pace in the wild card race. Obviously, this is a big rivalry game. This is going to be a big game for both teams. They've got a good opportunity. They've got as good an opportunity as anybody to beat Pittsburgh right now. Pittsburgh, even though they came back and beat the Colts, this is a team that has a lot of concerns, a lot of issues with their, not only the fact that, they've dropped 3 out of their last 4, but they have become so one-dimensional. It's almost laughable how much, they do not have an existing running game. They really are a one-trick pony right now, and that is just not going to get them through the playoffs. So they haven't really tried to rectify that issue all year long. They've really just allowed themselves to be that one-dimensional team. And, of course, when you're winning, nobody ever says a word about it. Winning cures all. So you didn't hear anything about the running game. You may hear whispers here and there, but nobody's paying attention to that deficiency in their team until it starts costing them games. And it's been costing them games, along with Juju Smith-Schuster and his shit talking that he's been, and his dancing that he's been doing on people's logos. But I really believe that if Cleveland is going to make any kind of statement as a franchise moving forward, they have to beat Pittsburgh. You have to beat Pittsburgh. They had a chance to beat them earlier in the season, was not to be. Now they have another chance here, and this is really for their playoff life. And if they can't get it done, then, there's going to be questions going all around. I think that Baker Mayfield has somewhat quieted the critics, somewhat to a certain extent, but they need more. He didn't have a lot of weapons last week. People understand that, but you lost to the fucking Jets. Let's be real. There's a lot of things that you have to do wrong to lose to the Jets. So, they're going to have to do a little bit of soul searching there. This game is obviously, this is a huge one. It's going to be in Cleveland. I think that helps the Browns a lot. I think if they're in Pittsburgh, it's a much, much harder day. I think Pittsburgh, again, if they can't have some kind of semblance of a running game, it's going to be a rough one. It's going to be a rough one going into the postseason. And now, when you look at this team's schedule, when you look at their record, 12-3, that 12-3 is not a very intimidating 12-3 based on the last month of football from them. So I'm going to actually go with Cleveland getting the win here. I'm going to move Cleveland up. We're going to move them up. We're going to move them up into good for a cameo. I think they can get into the wild card round. With some luck, they can get a win, but they're going to be good for a cameo there. Pittsburgh, even with the comeback against Indianapolis, I can only keep them where they are because any lower, if I pull them any lower, they're not, they have a playoff berth clinched. They have their division clinched. So it's hard to move them down, but they're still as low as you can get in the good for a cameo category. This team has not shown that they're really, really ready for the postseason. I'm going with Cleveland in this game because it's going to mean a lot more to them, and they actually have something to prove in this game. So I'm going to go with Cleveland for that matchup against Pittsburgh. Next game up, Minnesota at Detroit. This game means nothing. Both teams are eliminated. Nothing really to play for here at all. It's going to be more about draft positioning, I would think, in the front office more than anything. And, I'm going to just flip a coin here. And let me see. I got a quarter here. Let's flip a coin. Let's flip a coin. Let's just pick a winner. Heads, it's going heads for Minnesota, tails for Detroit. We got a tails. So it's at Detroit at home. I'm going to go ahead and pick Detroit for that win against Minnesota. Minnesota had a chance to try and stay competitive in the playoff hunt against the Saints. We all saw what happened. Alvin Kamara, 41 plus 1 equals 6. He had 6 touchdowns on the day, tying the NFL record. So we're going to actually move these guys down. They're going to go sit over here in basement dwellers. You can't give up 6 touchdowns to one man and think that you're really competing at any real level here. But also with Detroit got straight crushed in their game against Tampa. It looks like that. I mean, that franchise looks like a dead franchise. They look like a animated carcass. They're literally the Walking Dead. This franchise, and I just don't see how they fix a lot of this stuff, because every time they feel like they're making progress in Detroit, the people who and I don't put this on the players, I put this on the coaches, I put this on the general manager. They just don't have good management over the players, over the team that they field, the strategy and the game planning that they use. Just does not seem like a franchise that really is holding up its end of the bargain when you talk about the word professional. And I'm speaking from a front office standpoint again, not the players themselves. The players themselves are pros. They're out there trying to do their job, but you got to put them in a good position. But I'm going with Detroit on this. We'll see if they can get that win. I flipped a coin. It's a 50-50 game. I don't really care. Next game up is another game that really, it's weird to look at this, seeing New York at New England, and at first glance, at first thought, when you look at this, you think, oh, New England, here we go. They've got the division. They're going into the playoffs. They're probably resting their starters. No, not in 2020. In 2020, the New England Patriots are fucking garbage. They are one of the worst teams in the NFL, and it delights me ever so much to say it. This team has finally fallen from that high tower above the NFL franchises with their years of just countless great breaks, countless trophies, countless championships. Yeah, I'm jealous. So what? It's over with now, and everybody in the NFL is better for it. Everybody that's not New England is smirking as they walk away. I think that many people would agree that it's about time that this team fell from its high tower, and now we actually can see other teams that are deserving compete to get to the ultimate prize in February. But we got New York at New England. New England, it's the time has come. The time has come. Basement dwellers. Indeed. Yes. We have now officially seen the circle of failure is complete. They don't have a quarterback. They don't have a defense. They don't have an offense. Finally, we relish in this moment the warmth that it comforts us with. The Patriots, champions no more. Winners no more. And they have company. The Jets. The Jets get back into the basement dweller category this week because they had the first overall pick and they shat it away. And not only did they shat it away, they came back with a repeat performance and got another win against Cleveland. So, with all that being said, we've got a nice little group of basement dwellers down here. Everybody's keeping each other company. Teams that just have fallen to the depths of irrelevancy in the NFL. We're moving on. I'm going to actually pick New York to win that game. New York over New England, and that will complete the cycle of failure of this season for Bill Belichick. Wow. Bill Belichick leading a losing New England Patriots squad. We haven't seen this in well over 10, 15 years. Maybe 20 years. It's been probably 20 years. Yeah. They've always been playing for something in December, except for this year. Really enjoy that. Now, moving on. Dallas at New York. Woo! You know, Dallas is kind of they've put a little bit together as of late. You know, they've got a couple wins under their belt past couple weeks. They're 3 wins in a row going into New York. They put up a lot of points. Andy Dalton's been actually serviceable. He's been doing a decent enough job. They're putting points on the board. They're going into New York. New York, man. New York had just a little spurt, a little moment during the season where they looked like they might be finding an identity and turning things around. 4 wins in a row. Since then, they've lost 3 straight. And it's been the same story pretty much in each one of those games. They just haven't been able to produce anything on offense. Haven't been able to have any consistency. Haven't been able to put together any long drives. And, you know, to be fair, the defense has not played terribly. They've given up, 20 points to a team in Cleveland that's been putting numbers up over the past month. Arizona as well. They gave up 26. They gave up 27 to the Ravens. All games that if your offense is operating it with any efficiency, these are all games you're probably in and having a chance to win late in the game. So Giants have kind of fallen off their rocker. I think that will continue to happen here. I'm definitely downgrading with 3 losses in a row. They're going into the basement dweller category as well. The Cowboys with 3 wins in a row. We're going to move the boys up. They're going to move them up into party crashers. They're really not, they have a chance. If they win, Washington loses, then, they have a chance. They have a chance to get in the playoffs. So we move them up. Party crashers, not quite 1 win away. I think that all things considered, with the Washington football team still in the technical lead of the division, they have to remain at the highest point for the NFC East. But I'm definitely going with the Cowboys in this game. I think they're going to make it 4 in a row. That'll be a good note to finish the season with if they don't make it into the postseason. And that might just take a little bit of heat off of Mike McCarthy, because that hire a month ago was looking really bad. It was looking awful. It was looking like one of the worst hires in recent NFL memory for a head coach. And this might alleviate some of that stress just a little bit for the Cowboys. Next, we got Atlanta at Tampa Bay. Whew. Tampa Bay's looking good. No doubt about it. Tampa Bay is looking good. The Falcons, obviously, nothing really happening there. When you look at them on the Tiermaker, I tend to keep. I live in Atlanta, so I'm going to keep them just above basement dweller. Not going to take them down that far. Definitely a game that I expect Tampa Bay to come out on top in. I'm going to keep Tampa Bay here, good for a cameo. If they can finish the season strong, depending on where they end up in the wild card race, definitely could see them potentially moving up into having a shot But they're going to have to probably go through a team like the Saints or the Seahawks or somebody. I don't know what divisions play what divisions, but I'm going with Tampa Bay in this game over Atlanta. I think that should be, if Tampa comes out and plays their game, they could have a solid 10-point win sitting with them there. Next up, we got Green Bay at Chicago. Oh, this is the rivalry rekindled. Chicago actually playing for something significant here in the last week of the season. Whoo, Chicago. It's crazy because I feel like this is such false hope for Bears fans. Like, the worst thing possible. I mean, look, at the end of the day, and let me take a sip of water here because I got some explaining to do. I see Butter Biscuit down there in the chat. Yeah, Butter Biscuit, I emailed you earlier about us getting together and, maybe getting on the game tomorrow on a live stream, on a video game live stream. So that's what I meant when I said tomorrow, just so you know. But Butter Biscuit's one of our he's a trench master in our membership perk program. Trench master. He's going to be coming on a live stream playing some games with me here tomorrow. So make sure you look forward to that. But back to these Bears. This is the dilemma with Chicago. This isn't a team with a lot of problems. This is a team that doesn't have a good quarterback. And with everything that we've seen this season from this team, any sensible general manager is going to say to themselves, we need to reset the foundations and the core of this team to build something that we can turn into a winner. And that starts with the quarterback. This guy is not a good quarterback. And just because you see him here getting these wins, putting up 36, 33, and 41 points against the Texans, the Vikings, and the Jags, all three teams with terrible defense. Well, we thought the Vikings had a good defense, but they don't. All three teams have bad defense and give up a ton of points. And it's not you can't accurately measure how much progress this team has actually made with these three wins. They're meaningless in a sense. This is like a false flag for Bears fans. Do not fall into the trap of thinking that this team is any good in its current form. It's not. The Jaguars were not going to beat the Bears. Come on. They're not going to win. It's over with. They're not going to win. They're going to let you beat them by however many points you want. It's a free win. They're trying to get the number one pick. The Vikings outside looking in, Texans just fighting for pride because they ain't have nothing to play for either. But the worst case scenario for this Bears team is that the front office gets tricked into thinking that they're making progress. And even worse, this is absolute nuclear holocaust, for lack of a better term. This is a nuclear holocaust scenario for the Bears. They extend Mitchell Trubisky. If they give him a contract extension, it is over for this franchise. Let him go. Focus on Allen Robinson. Get a good quarterback. You can find a quarterback in the draft. I mean, hell, we found Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson got found in the third. He was a third-round pick. So there's going to be a quarterback that they can build around in the draft, or they can look to potentially sign somebody in free agency or to make a trade. But the biggest mistake that this franchise can make is to think that 8-7 means anything, because it doesn't. You went on a 6-game losing streak with this current team. There's no scenario where you can look at that losing streak and look at a team that performs like that and think for 1 second that this is a team you can build something with. And this is like the fourth year of this. So, Bears fans, please. It doesn't even matter if the Bears make the playoffs. It's not going to change who this team really is. They'll make the playoffs and get smoked in the first round. We know it. We know it. Green Bay's coming into Chicago. This is going to be obviously a rivalry game. I'd expect it to be competitive, but I still think that Green Bay comes out winning 10 plus points over Chicago. And I'm going to actually, even with these 3 wins, I'm going to downgrade Chicago. I'm going to downgrade them because this is cruelty to the fan base for them to have these 3 wins and actually be talking about the playoffs as if they're going to go in there and do something. We know that's not going to happen. So they're down here. They've been moved down. Obviously Green Bay, they're riding high right now. Justly, and they are showing themselves to be the truth. They stomped out Tennessee. They looked good doing it. That was at home, but doesn't look good going to Lambeau to play right now. That's kind of the message that was sent in that game. Because if there's any team in the NFL that's built to beat a team like Green Bay in Lambeau in those kind of settings, it's supposed to be Tennessee. That running game is supposed to turn the tide in that kind of environment, and it didn't. So they're scary. They look scary at home in the playoffs. I'm going with Green Bay in this matchup. Bears, sorry. Next up, Vegas and Denver. That's another 50-50 game. Vegas is out of the playoff run. Denver, they've been out of it. This really isn't anything that's going to improve. There's not really much. There's nothing to play for here. Positioning in the draft, you're middling in the middle of the first round, so you're not moving up or down very much anyway. But let's see what we got here on the 50-50. Heads, we're going heads, Vegas. Tails, Denver. We got a heads, so I'm going with Las Vegas in the matchup. Now, in the Tiermaker, they're a party crasher. Even when they were trying to make a run for the playoffs, I had them at party crasher. I'm going to keep them there. I think that's a fair enough position to take on that. Denver, I haven't paid that much attention to Denver this season, but 5-10, sitting on losing 4 out of your last 5. I can't, in good conscience, I can't take that serious that they're that they may win the game. So I'm going to keep them down here and just trying to keep my job. Gonna go with the Raiders in this game, and we'll see how it plays out. Moving on, Jacksonville at Indianapolis. I think that we already know how this one's going to play out. This is about more than this game for Duval. This is about Trevor Lawrence. This is the Tank Bowl. They're the Tank champs. And honestly, hey, this is a once in a generation player that they think that they're going to be getting. A lot of people think that about Trevor Lawrence. Watching him play, I think it too. I think this cat is going to be, he's going to be the key piece to start the rebuild for Jacksonville. Now it just comes down to, who is going to make the decisions as to what kind of pieces they pick up for the franchise. I think that the general manager job opening in Jacksonville is going to be highly sought after. They're going to be, I believe that every GM in the NFL probably wants that job because you're basically getting a clean slate team with one quarterback as your main player. I think that that is the future that Jacksonville is looking forward to. They're looking forward to the rebuild process. They actually have solid prospects if they play it right, starting with Trevor Lawrence and then building around him, getting some pieces together. So they're going to go into the Colts and they're going to sit down and take this ass whooping like they know they want to. It's going to be a game, obviously, but if there is even an inkling that Jacksonville can win this, if there's other games that would pull them out of the first overall pick, if they win in Indianapolis, you can bet your bottom dollar they're calling a punt on first down. So I'm going with Indianapolis in this one. Indy, they blew a big opportunity against the Steelers. That was a big missed opportunity. Had a solid demonstrative lead over the Steelers, and you give it up and allow them to come back and steal a win that they didn't deserve, but they earned it. I think that pulls the Colts down into 1 win away, because now their fate is not so much in their own hands. They're going to need the Titans to lose for them to be able to take the division, which, with them and Tennessee losing, I guess it doesn't really change the positioning, but you want to get that win when you have it in your hands, and where it's a different story if you don't lose to Pittsburgh that we're talking about right now, if you do. But I'm going with Indianapolis, obviously, in that game. Next up, we got the Chargers at Kansas City. Kansas City has been shooting themselves in the foot on offense to start games lately. This is a team that you expect to just throw points up at will. And while they still do, they have been they've had some unforced errors over the last few weeks to start off games. And that's something that you want to get that shored up before you go into the postseason. And going up against the Chargers with Justin Herbert and how he's playing this year, obvious rookie of the year. But the way that kid's playing, you don't want to sleep on him. You don't want to sleep on him. He can make things happen. But even with all that said, I'm going with Kansas City in this game. I'm going to keep these Chargers here as party crashers. I think if there's any kind of party that they could potentially crash, this one is one that they could probably gain a lot of momentum moving forward for the franchise with, if they can sneak that win out. I don't see it happening. Kansas City, I'm picking for that win over the Chargers. Next game up, Arizona at Los Angeles. Whew. This game is a weird game, because these teams are obviously fighting for a wild card spot, but both these teams have had opportunities to get that done. Both these teams have had opportunities to snatch away the strangle grip on the division that the Seahawks have had. They both have had opportunities at multiple points in the season to take that next step as a franchise, and you just haven't seen it develop in either one of these franchises, and it boils down to lack of consistency. Seattle, for all of the chances that these squads have had, Seattle has remained consistent in its approach and their game plan, and they have stayed true to the identity that they built for themselves over the years. It shows you how hard it is to really control a division in this league, to really take over the reins of a division leader in the NFL. You have to win. You have to fight to win, and every week is another opportunity at that. The Rams, the Cardinals, both teams that had multiple chances head up against Seattle, and multiple chances when Seattle was going through a bit of a slump to jump ahead of them. They weren't able to do that. So in this game here, I'm really looking at it. I'm really pulling down the Cardinals, down to party crashers, because they've actually taken they've had the bigger slump. They've looked the least consistent between them and the Rams. The Rams are in a little bit of a dilemma themselves, just because, they're still not solidified at quarterback, and Jared Goff has a broken thumb. He had surgery on that, so I don't think he's playing this week. I think he's questionable as of right now, but it's not looking good for him to be in there, and that is going to put the Rams in a heck of a spot. I don't think their defense is the kind of defense that can, carry this team with an offense that's sputtering or not able to really put a lot of points on the board. They've got a good defense, but defenses that can carry their team score points too. I'm not sure exactly how much their point differential is, or how much they've scored on defense this year, but they lost to the Jets. Would you trust them? I wouldn't. So, I look at this game. I'm going to go with Arizona. I think Arizona pulls out the upset here. And the Rams just, they're just not there yet. They're just not there yet. So looking at them on the Tiermaker here, right now I've got the Rams at 1 win away. I've got the Cardinals as party crashers. I think they crashed the party this week. I think they crashed the party. So moving on to the next one. The next matchup, we got Seattle and San Francisco. Honestly, I wouldn't sleep on San Fran. I wouldn't sleep on them. You can't sleep on them if you're Seattle. Finish the season strong. Get the win. They actually, they beat the Niners 37-27 in their first matchup. But these 49ers beat the Cardinals last week, 20-12. They beat the Cardinals. That's enough for me to look at this matchup and say this could be a trap for Seattle. You don't want to lose momentum heading into the playoffs. So I think they get it done. I think they do pull out the win. I'm going to keep them at should have a shot. But when you're playing against the Niners, this is a team that has been beat up all year long. They've had a substantial amount of injuries. But I think at home they play tough, but I go with Seattle. I think Seattle's going to get this matchup for this last week of the 2020 season. Next up, we got New Orleans at Carolina. In years past, this would be a game potentially to decide the division with the Saints playing against Carolina back in the Cam Newton days. But now, not so much. I still see a bright future for Carolina. I think it's a team that has pieces in place. I think they just need to continue to build. This season allowed them to kind of measure where their ceiling could be at. We've seen some good games out of them. They haven't had Christian McCaffrey all season. I'm more leaning towards that being coach's decision to save his body rather than him necessarily being injured enough to not be able to play. I think that's a strategic move by Carolina to keep him on the sidelines. They know the season's not going anywhere. There's no reason to put his health at risk, knowing what kind of player he is. You want to keep him and preserve him for the seasons to come. Obviously, you're not competing for anything now. I think New Orleans is going to pull the win. New Orleans will probably come into this game potentially resting Drew Brees. They've got the division. I believe they've got the division. Yeah, because they got 2 wins over Tampa Bay. So this is kind of just a game to keep their feet warm, keep them loose. But they're probably going to end up sitting a lot of key players after early on into that game. But I'm still going to take New Orleans in this. I think that they're going to put some points up, get a little bit of a lead, and then they're going to let the backups or let the second squad come in and maintain. I'm going to keep Carolina at party crashers. I'm going to keep. They haven't been abysmal. They've been competitive in almost every game, so I'm going to keep them there. But I'm going with New Orleans for the win. Next up, this game is a huge game, and it's not as simple as one may think looking at both these teams' records and calling a winner. Tennessee at Houston, this game is going to be a close game. I think people need to understand that now. This is a game, just knowing this division, this is a game that is going to come down to the last quarter of play. Now, with all of that being said, I think that we've seen enough out of Houston to know that consistency is going to be an issue, that offensive line is going to be an issue. Deshaun Watson can only do so much. They're going to be tested pretty thoroughly throughout the game in protecting him. And their defense is going to be tested in the run game with Derrick Henry. I know that Tennessee has to be thinking that they need to get that back on track as soon as possible because you're going to absolutely need him in the postseason. They need to get this win to keep ahead of Indianapolis, to keep position. The division hasn't been decided yet. If they win the game, they win the division. If they lose and Indianapolis wins, Indianapolis gets the division. And I think if there's a tie there, that Tennessee actually wins the tie. But the Texans defense is going to be, they're going to receive a huge test. But something about these two teams playing Houston in Houston. It's not the easiest thing in the world. I mean, I've played there a number of times. They do tend to play a lot better at home. So we'll see how this one plays out. I am going with Tennessee, but I think this is going to be a close game going into the fourth quarter. And we'll see how that one plays out. And finally, and this one is probably the biggest game on this entire week's schedule. We got the Washington football team at Philadelphia. The NFC East is up for grabs. It's going to be between Dallas and Washington. And Philadelphia, I think, it's been a pretty disastrous year for the Eagles. I think anybody who looks at what's going on there objectively would agree that it's just been a disaster. They think they may have found something in Jalen Hurts. I tend to think that they could have something in him. We'll see how that plays out. He's actually brought a spark to that team. So there could be some opportunities in this game to maybe sneak out with a win. But you look at what the Washington football team has on their end. They've got a great defense. They've got one of the best, if not the best, defense in the NFL. That's going to be a huge hurdle for Jalen Hurts to work against. But everything comes to balance. Everything comes to balance with the fact that this Washington football team doesn't have a quarterback that they can actually lean toward. They released Dwayne Haskins. They've got Taylor Heinicke, who's looking to be the starter this week, I believe. Alex Smith is still out hurt with a calf injury. This division is a hot mess. It's a dumpster fire. I think that's fair to say if you're looking at this from any position with logic and reason in mind. This division is a disaster. But if I had to pick one, I'm going with Washington. I think the defense can push them through. They've got a very good D. If they can put up 2 touchdowns on offense and 2 touchdowns, a field goal, or 2 touchdowns and a defensive score, I think that seals it for them. But Philadelphia, not playing for anything, but they definitely want to get a look at Jalen Hurts. I think he's going to try and put on a show. We'll see how it plays out. But I think that we may actually see the Washington football team going into the playoffs, week 1 wild card matchup. And your guess is as good as mine from there. I mean, losing record, making the playoffs, give me a break. But that is our Tiermaker rankings for the final week, going into the final week of the NFL season. Make sure you are smashing that like button, subscribing if this is your first time being on one of these streams and seeing this Tiermaker list. Do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. Tomorrow we'll be doing a live stream, video game streaming to start Weekend Geek. So look out for a notification on that. I will be having Butterbiscuit 92, our Trench Master level member, on with me. We'll be playing a game. We'll figure out what game we'll play, and we'll get all that information out as soon as we get everything locked down. But I appreciate you guys so much for being here on this Tiermaker stream. Obviously, I've moved the time back. I wanted to kind of go into prime time with it. I think that gives people a little bit more time to get settled where they are, kick back, pull up the stream, and enjoy me sitting here talking about these teams. But definitely let me know what you think about the time change. If it's something you think that you want me to stick with, let me know. If not, well, we'll see how it goes for a few weeks. Maybe it grows on us and we keep it here. But if there's any huge, any huge kind of push for me to keep it at 3, then obviously I'll look into doing that as well. But I appreciate you guys so much for being here on the Tiermaker ranking stream with me, your observant lineman, Uche Nwaneri. Appreciate y'all so much. Hope everybody has a wonderful evening, and we will catch you on the next one. Peace.